Okay, gents, we are live. So yeah, good to be on here. Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us on our 12th AMA. We appreciate your time. We've scheduled about an hour, and obviously there's a couple of us here, which is a nice change from the previous session. So we've got Jeremy and myself from BlockDAG. Jeremy is our CTO, which a lot of you would know. Then we've got Reed Davis and Mohammed Adam. They are with BlockDAG Investor Group. They've been on the last two AMAs. They represent the largest investor group from BlockDAG. And then we've got a guest appearance from Michael, and that's Michael Kovac. And we might have Greg joining us as well, depending on the timing. I think there was a bit of confusion around timing and daylight savings kicking in on the US side of things. Yeah, so thanks to everyone for joining me here from the team and behind the cameras, and all of you out there joining us. I'd like to kick off by just giving a bit of a summary of sort of where things are from my perspective, which will include a summary of what transpired over the last two AMAs. And then I'm going to hand it over to the other gentleman to lead us through some questions. And then in between that, I'm also keen to do a bit of a walk around, show you the office we're in, and also more importantly, show you some miners that are active, and one or two other things as well. So that'll be the interactive fun part of it. Anyway, so let me just start by saying we are in the middle of the process that was talked about in the AMA. So just to recap, in the past, I had very limited areas of control and responsibility and focus. Those being predominantly around launching the chain and growing the ecosystem around that. My involvement wasn't in the other areas of marketing, pre-sale, the financial side, treasury management, all of that. That wasn't part of my responsibility. What has happened over the last 2 weeks is the project has agreed that everything will be transitioned or handed over across to myself and obviously the team that I have below me. So we will, over time, and I'll get to that in a moment, over this transition period, I'll be taking over full responsibility for pretty much everything. So in the future, once we pass this, I won't be sitting here saying I wasn't aware or I didn't know it wasn't my responsibility. So I'll be putting my hand up and saying, I, through my team, will be responsible for everything, including the marketing, building the chain, launching the chain, managing the finance, setting up the structures, working with the community, growing the ecosystem, and everything else that I haven't mentioned there. So I think, I mean, broadly speaking, the community's been very positive around that. There's still obviously unanswered questions through this, but I think right now we're looking for the best way forward. It's not necessarily answering all the questions that people have, but I think we need to be pragmatic and we need to plot the best way forward for this project. And I believe this certainly is it. And because of these interactions, obviously with the community, through community members, we'll be a lot closer to the community and we'll be held account to the community. And the structure that we move into is going to be transparent. There'll be a DAO involved. We'll have transparency around the funds in that structure, so people in the community will be able to see what we're holding. So we're moving from a very opaque structure to something which is going to be completely transparent from a structure perspective, as well as the team. And that's what we're all committing to going forward. The transition, we are hoping to have it all complete by the end of the year. So right now, I'm still not involved. Sorry, I'm not responsible for a lot of those areas, but over the next couple of weeks, those will transition across, and it will make it quite clear as things obviously change that we all and the team will be taking responsibility for those. So right now, please don't start saying Anthony's now 100% in control and responsible, because that's not quite the case just yet. But that's the end goal that we're looking for by the end of the year. I think that covers everything for now. I mean, I know there are lots of questions. I presented ways of reducing the excess bonus tokens. I'm not going to go through the excess bonus token issue again, because I've done that on 2 prior AMAs. Nevertheless, to say we have too many bonuses that were sold, and we were looking for different ways of reducing that to fit in within the 50 billion token or pre-sale tokens that we have available. So nothing's been decided on that count, even on the NFT count. We've been clear that we've positioned various alternatives that we feel are better ones, but we haven't made decisions. I've got a lot of feedback from the community on different alternatives to consider. Michael is one of the gentlemen that mailed me, and we've had some conversation. And obviously, he's part of the investor group, so that's one of the reasons he's here as well. So I think more importantly, Jeremy's obviously here to answer technical questions. If I can hand over to you guys, you can decide which questions are more relevant and important to the group, and we're here to answer the questions.
Yeah. Well, I compiled last night a list of questions from Reddit as well as Facebook, but honestly, I think I'm going to defer for a little bit to Michael and get him started. If Mohammed'd like to say anything.
Well,
yeah, that's actually what I was going to recommend. Michael, it's your first time here, so we'll go after you.
I appreciate that, and thank you all for having me. I am an investor, and I understand what has to happen so that we can succeed and get to launch, and I'm all on board to do that. I'm just trying to come up with a way that's fair and transparent for the community. For example, the initial thought of a 75% reduction was very easy to calculate, but then when it got into the one that everyone said had overwhelming community support, you couldn't really get to the formula to do a calculation. So I don't know how it could have overwhelming community support when we can't understand it. So there's a couple things that I'd just like to add. I actually came up with what I think is a solution, and I haven't heard yet what the flaws in it are, because obviously I'm not privy to all the inner workings. But before I get there, the one thing that I keep asking for and pushing is that any solution in the spirit of the DAO transition, I want to see if it's possible to get, let's say, the two best solutions to a community vote. So instead of just making a blanket statement that the majority of the people accept this one, we actually have a vote in the spirit of the DAO transition. So that's the first question.
Yeah. So thanks, Michael. I think, it does make sense to go that route. I think because this is a sensitive process we're going to go through, and it's not just the bonus tokens, it's the NFTs, it's the history around the tap miner points. It's going to be a transition into another structure. So there's quite a bit of sensitivity. So I think we're trying to be more all-inclusive with the community where we can. So I think leave that with me to see how we structure a voting system. Obviously we're not on chain, so we can't do that, but there are platforms which we can use. We would just need to also be able to link it to verified accounts that hold BDAG. So there's a bit of effort around it, but it's probably the best way to go to get buy-in. The challenge obviously is we're not going to always satisfy everyone, but I think if we can at least say that we have the broader community backing for the decision, then at least we've done what we can.
Right, and then in that, obviously, the larger investors get more votes, so to speak. So it's kind of weighted towards the people that have invested the most money. Correct?
Yeah, I think that would be natural as part of that vote.
Right.
Okay. DAO vote.
So then, I'll get into my proposal, and it's basically what I'm calling the K formula, but it's a as you said in your email, Anthony, it's a maximum bonus cap per dollar invested. And what this does is it kind of levels the playing field so that, I'll back up. I did a study where, let's just say in my own personal wallet, I did 2 double ups. I did a study what someone would have had to invest with 4 double ups to get to my same invested dollar amount. And they ended up with nearly double the tokens because of the bonus structure. So in fairness, using this K formula, maximum tokens per dollar invested, those are the people that would absorb most of the clawback. And I think that would be fair, because what happens is we all land for launch at basically the same ROI on our investment, at least the expected ROI based on a 0.05 launch price. And to get to the number of pullback that you need to, the K number could be adjusted based on different invested amounts, meaning, if you invested over this amount, it's this K number, which may be, let's say, a 15x ROI at launch. And then you could have another number that's a 10x ROI at launch for lower investors. And then the other thing it would allow you to do, Anthony, is I know there's a lot of people talking about, well, we bought in at a higher price and now you're selling it at 0.05. The other thing it would be able to allow you, did I lose you guys? Is normalize. I don't know if I lost, something happened to my screen, but it would allow you to normalize the new investors with the TGE investors. I mean, the old investors, the TGE investors wouldn't get hit more than what the new investors are getting, which is roughly a 10x at launch, I believe, if my numbers are correct. I see a slideshow, so maybe you're going to take it from here.
No, sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. I just thought I'd bring this up because this is sort of roughly the starting point of what people got over the various periods. So it's carry on. I mean, I'll just add some context.
The other thing about the formula is that the middle investors that paid more and got less bonus tokens would be unaffected by the cut, because it's probably there are I don't have all the data, but probably their predicted ROI is already below 10x. But in the event that it did go above what that ROI is for that investment group, then they would have a little cut, but they would have the lowest amount of cuts under the formula I'm presenting. And I know you had said in an email that you saw that as a problem, but I see that as a benefit to the middle investors. And I would love to see on a chart like this, if we set what the K level is for each investment category, I would love to see what it does to the chart. And my hope is that it would, bring everybody to a very even playing field as far as expected ROI at TGE.
Okay. I've just popped up a slide. It's not directly related to your proposal, but there's just some info in it which I think just is useful for the to present where things are. So this top one, if you look at the red bars, that's the bonus percentage over the course of the project. I think what yours does is effectively it would just cap these at a certain level. I mean, if you work the K factor back into an actual percentage, it's just you end up with a maximum percentage.
Yes.
So these bars. So the effect would be if let's say it was calculated at 1,000%, just as an example. You would basically cap all of these, the last investors, the later investors, at 1,000%, and you could possibly supply some of that back to the middle investors. But that's a different thing. But that's the effect of it. So, I mean, it does affect the double up guys and the later investors directly, and not so much anyone else. So that's the only thing that I picked up from.
And I'm a later investor, so I'm trying to come up with something that's fair. But I came up with a number, just for my own study. I came up with a K number. I have a K number that would effectively land me at the equivalent of what a straight 75% cut would be. But what it would in turn do is it would level everyone out. So I did 2 double ups, but for someone that did 4 double ups but still invested the same amount of money as me, we would be brought equal. And for the people that took advantage of the system, which was supposed to be limited to 4 double ups, they would be the ones that get hit the most. But in my view, they couldn't really complain too much because they would be at the same ROI on launch as someone that invested the equivalent amount of money as them. And it can be, so you can have a different formula for people that invested 50,000, 40,000, 20, 10, whatever. You can have different formulas based on the investment amount to normalize everyone's expectations. And it wouldn't affect the middle investors. I wouldn't say we should give them anything back because they did have an intent to purchase the tokens at a particular price. But I don't think it's fair that they get anything additionally taken away from them either.
Okay.
And just to add, we would have to set these K levels at numbers to accomplish the desired clawback. I don't know exactly what they would be yet, but I know that they, it's a sliding number. You can make it whatever you want. I would just say that as we set that number, higher investors have a higher multiple, and lower investors, someone that put in $100 has a lower multiple. I think it would be in fairness of the community, my opinion.
So I looked at that. I would say that sorry, this is just a summary. So these were my objectives that I think we should try and achieve is early investors. We added in the 150% early investor bonus, but now that we're reducing everyone, they got a lot of core tokens already. So the early investors, there should be a significant reduction in the bonus percentage. Mid investors, there should be no or minimal reduction because they really didn't get much bonus. And obviously late investors, also a large reduction. I think what gets us there quite easily is a larger bonus gets a larger reduction. So where you had a cap, I'm not sure if you were around when we did the tap miner reduction, but the higher the percentage that you had as a bonus, the higher reduction you received. So it wasn't a solid sort of cap. It was an ever increasing reduction. So almost in an exponential way. So someone who got 2,000% bonus versus 1,000%, the 2,000% is a far bigger reduction. And then the second one is the lower purchase price gets a larger reduction on a sliding scale, and that then helps to reduce the early investors. They got a lot of core coins up front, so they don't need such a big number of bonuses.
Yeah, I think
that's just a more gradual version of yours.
I think what this just adds, rather than a blanket larger bonuses get a larger reduction, is it equals the playing field so that larger bonuses get a larger reduction based on the amount invested, so that we all come to a similar ROI at launch, if that makes sense. So it's just taking this, I think, a step further. Yeah.
So it would reduce. It would bring everyone closer to a similar ROI.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
So the counter to all this argument, and it's a bit of a counter to the sort of scenarios that I presented, one of which was this one, was that some people bought in at having a higher expectation of a bonus. So something like this or some of the other scenarios might be more fair, but it doesn't address the fact that someone bought in with expectation of 2,000% bonus. So, and we're trying to balance the two things of expectations versus what's fair. And that's why this one came close to it, I think, because it gave early investors not much bonus because they already had lots of coins. It reduced the late investors quite substantially, and the middle investors got largely unaffected. July got a raw deal here, so I mean, we'll have to look a bit more on this, but that's what this sort of approach did, is it tried to equalize taking from early and late and sort of protecting the middle guys.
Yeah, it's hard to tell just from a macro chart, but it seems fair. I just think the one thing that you should add to it is the investment amount formula. And if someone expected a 2,000% bonus, I get that, but we all need to kind of step it up right now so we can get to launch. And I mean, the alternative is we all lose everything. But I'm just trying to come up with a solution where everyone is kind of on a equal playing field at launch based on how much they invested.
Yeah.
And the one thing I want to add, Anthony, is I've also heard talks of restricting the bonus tokens for 1 year under this new structure. I would suggest that since the new price is 0.005 and those will all fall under normal vestings, I would suggest that whatever tokens we're left with, you run a formula at the 0.005 to determine what now is bonus versus purchased tokens, so that we are also all treated equally on launch.
So the 0.5 cent, I mean, that was a mistake on my side. We shouldn't have gone down that low. I wouldn't want to now move a whole bunch of bonus tokens into traditional tokens, which unlock earlier, which affect the whole project. We haven't had many people buying up based off that. I mean, there's probably 100 million tokens, which is a small number that have been sold through that. So I think what we rather have to do is get away from the 0.5 cent, because that was my mistake. It's just too low, and everyone was obviously upset by that. I don't want to taint all the tokens because of a very small window where people managed to buy at a price where we made a mistake. So that's on me, but I think we rather need to fix the price as opposed to affect all the tokens sold.
Yeah, but at the same time, I could make an argument that, at least myself, and I haven't seen the project from the beginning, but at least myself, I didn't buy knowing that they were bonus tokens. I bought at an advertised price. So I understand that you're throwing all these into a bonus now because we have to do a reduction. But when someone buys at an advertised price, it's different than, for example, on another token, they're running a special buy now and get a 40% bonus, or buy now and get a 100% bonus, which is clearly bonus tokens. But when I bought, it was buy now at the price of 0016. So, and I don't know that there was even talk until recently of holding the bonus tokens for a period of 1 year. I don't. From when I looked, I thought all tokens were getting released on the same vesting schedule. So again, I'm just trying to come up with fairness so that we all kind of are in the same boat on launch as far as which are bonus and which are base.
Yeah. So I think, yeah. So I mean, the bonus tokens for quite some time have been positioned as locked up, as long as probably 8 months or thereabout, possibly longer than that. Yeah, I can't comment on obviously the incentive and your understanding of the bonus pricing versus the pricing versus what was going to become bonuses. But I think, I mean, we have to take all of these into account. I mean, I've started preparing something which will set out various scenarios. I mean, that was partially done in some of the earlier slides, but I'll include yours as well as an option to consider as well, and then people can compare it. The other thing I need to do is actually work this out to see how it actually plays out, because it's all very well looking at months, but there's a lot of nuances hidden in that which doesn't really get captured by these sort of charts, because different number of people bought in different times as well, so this doesn't capture that. So I'm just getting all the data. Unfortunately, it's more than 500,000 transactions. It's not something that's easy to just use in Excel and make calculations with.
Yeah, I understand.
So,
I appreciate that you presented, and hopefully at least before that's done, we could just have some discussions as far as what that K number becomes for different levels of investments. I would love to be included in that discussion.
I'm just going to jump into, if that's okay, just to kind of, because I know Greg couldn't make it here today, and I had a conversation with him, and I just wanted to ensure he's represented just in case he can't make it. So Greg is someone who's a sort of early investor, but also brought in the mid batches, and his primary concerns were that, you know, the 0.005 that you commented on, Anthony, should get adjusted to move up within the 3-cent range where it should be in order to drive sales. So that was one of the points that he made. He also made the point that the mid-range investors receive the tough end of the deal based on when the bonuses started. So, you know, they make up the majority of who our investors are, and they're the ones that need to be accounted for within the. So he made the argument of majority versus minority that falls within those buckets. Those were the two proportional points that were made, that he made specifically. The other stuff I'll get into. As far as the vesting, I'll just add one comment before we move on, because I don't want to take up too much time on the tokenomics piece since you'll address that. But the one thing I will add to the vesting period itself is, you know, as we're taking into account conversion versus vesting, I think from a community standpoint too, we just all have to be reasonable, because you have, you know, you're still walking away with more bonuses, and then also not asking for vesting versus other investors who have been in the project for 2 years waiting. I don't think there's any consistency or reason within that if you're joining towards the end and saying, well, you know, because of everything surrounding this, we don't get to, you know, we shouldn't be subject to the vesting that other people in the project have been waiting on for 2 years. That's what defines being an early investor, taking on that bigger risk and tying back to the vesting contract. So that's all I'll add on that before we move on. The bottom line is the community is the one that will need to decide. So I think we have given them enough information on that today.
With that, I guess I'll carry on. I've spoken with you pretty frequently over the last few weeks, Anthony, and I know that you're going about it in the best manner you can for fairness. And I personally, I have the utmost trust that you're going to find the great solution. And, you know, if you got to bring somebody else, a third party in to help evaluate, that you'll do so. And so I'm not very concerned about it. What I'm concerned about is Jeremy's on with us today. And I want to eat up some of Jeremy's time here. So if I may, there have been so many questions about the tech, about how can we tell that it's a DAG as opposed to a regular chain. You know, I have been trying to field these questions to the best of my ability. I run nodes and all kinds of stuff. But Jeremy, what can you tell us about transactions per second, about the noding, about the partnership with Now Nodes and how that's a confirming thing? I mean, just go into it if you can, please, Jeremy.
Okay, so I think if I'm hearing some of the questions in what you're saying, like we're developing a visualizer for the DAG. It's actually done for the most part, and the idea is that we'll at some point create a dashboard for the mining node, which will include a visualizer for your node's perspective on the DAG. In other words, as you know, every single full node that will be generating blocks will essentially see the network from its perspective. And the idea is that you should be able to see the DAG from your perspective on the node. If you're a mining pool, you should be able to share that visualization with you know, the rest of your local community that's in your pool. So I don't think, without doing like a deep dive on what's happening in your node at the moment, that you'll necessarily be able to find that information yourself or correlate it yourself, unless you actually go onto the chain and create your own way of looking at the blocks, their connectedness, and who generated what. But we'll be giving you a tool at some point in the near future that will allow you to visualize what the DAG actually looks like. It might initially just be something we provide online, and then eventually it should be built into a stack that we want to create for the mining community, which allows you to be able to essentially see certain metrics from your perspective on the DAG. Yeah, so that answers, I suppose, that question. Transactions per second, I think you mentioned something about that. We're currently sitting in with Awakening. We've reliably pushed it to 1,400 transactions per second. In Dev, we've been able to manipulate, obviously, the environment. So with that, we can push it higher, but that's not real world scenarios. So I'd say that we're currently on track to do about 2,000 transactions, which is our goal for mainnet launch. We just have to tweak certain parameters to get there. There's a bunch of other work we're doing at this point in time, though, that are more, I'd say, like other tweaks that we need to do before we push the transaction rate up a little bit further. So we're busy tidying up some background stuff at this point in time. So, but it's still on track. From what I can tell and what I know about the current DevNets, we should be on track to get 2,000 transactions per second by launch. We currently, as I said, we're definitely able to do 1,400 reliably and sustainably on Awakening. So, what else did you ask? So Nine Nodes is kind of an independent kind of detachment from the core blockchain. So, you know, I don't think the partnership with Nine Nodes affects what we'll be producing as a blockchain. It just obviously offers more services to the dev community and to the rest of the community. You know, the nodes are there. You can run a full node, or you can build your dApp on a stack that you host with them. It's up to you as a community to decide how you use those resources. It doesn't materially affect the way that the chain gets launched and or the technology behind the chain. Yeah, that's a lot of questions all in one go. So I've kind of forgotten if there's anything else you want me to give feedback on there.
Essentially, just, you know, whatever details that you could give that, you know, we haven't had a lot of technical AMAs. And so
Yeah,
to have you being the chief technical officer, I just, you know, anything that you can give insight on. Maybe
I'll just mention something else. So a lot of people compare us to Casper, and I think it's a false equivalent. And I just thought I'd just mention that in this meeting, just to clear things up. At some point in our development over the last year, we removed the UTXO, you know, functionality, if you want to call it that, or the UTXO ledger from BlockDAG. And the reason we did that is because internally we were running a bridge, which meant technically we had two tokens, one token that was in the EVM space and one that was on the UTXO space, and we ran a bridge internally so they could cross that thing. It was not ideal. It also hampered our efforts to try and improve the throughput of EVM to scale it to where we are now at 1,400 transactions per second. So it's important for everyone on this call that's listening to understand that the EVM transaction is a more complex transaction than an UTXO transaction. And we're doing EVM transactions at 1,400 transactions per second at this point in time, which is an important differentiator to what you see, for instance, on Casper. They're doing high transaction rates, but on simple UTXO transactions, not on EVM transactions. So I thought I'd just clear that up because I did see some mention of that. There has been some mentions of higher speeds than that. We've, as far as I know, never claimed that unless by accident. We're not at this point going to be claiming that we should be able to push beyond 2,000 transactions per second at launch. But I can tell you that me and the team, our intention is to keep the research and development going until we push this architecture to its limits. And that will come post-launch. We don't want to do too many changes. We want to stay on track with the current architecture so that, you know, we don't introduce too many variables. We're getting close to wanting to launch this network, and we have to get to a point at which we freeze the optimizations at whatever point we can get them to, so that we can deliver a network that is functional, that does what it said, what we claim it's going to do from an Ethereum an EVM perspective, and then we will enhance it over time. You know, that's the whole point. Is like, let's get through launch, let's deliver 2,000 transactions per second, and EVM and a bunch of other things, enhancements that we want to put on there for DeFi and for real world assets and vault management. There's a whole bunch of things we want to deliver to the community as entry point style contracts. Essentially, you can call them infrastructure in a way, where we standardize and with the rest of the EVM ecosystem on certain types of infrastructure, and it becomes native, so that you can use them without having to go through the process of auditing them and their functionality. It becomes essentially a native on-chain pseudo let's say call it layer 1.5 contract interaction with the main chain. And that's what we're going to aim for, to give the community every tool they need to build amazing whatever dApps you decide, you know, whatever your business model is. We want to produce infrastructure that allows you to decide, like have as much of that as possible, so that you can do whatever it is you want to build on our network. And when I say ours, I mean your and our network. In the end, that's what it becomes.
I have one more key question that's been asked many a times. Are we ISO 20022?
Skip. I don't know. Right. I don't know how to answer that question right now.
Yeah.
No, I don't know which one that is. I mean, we've also been asked if we ISO 27001. Those are big endeavors, and yeah, I'm not sure how relevant it really is.
It's too early for us to. And remember, guys, we're a blockchain. Ultimately, this is a decentralized system. When we introduce governance and it becomes DAO based, it's a decentralized system. A lot of what we do in these decentralized systems are governed differently to the way that you in a corporate. That means that if we decide to provide a service to you, let's say a block explorer, that we won't endeavor to make sure that it's at a certain level of engineering excellence. We will. That's part of our job. But the blockchain as an entity, as a decentralized, unregulated, free entity that you as investors and mining enthusiasts are essentially the network. And that means you can't put standards on your equipment that you're running, your mining node. That's up to you. You decide what the standards are for your mining node and your mining pool, and then it's up to you to attract, more miners to your pool, or make sure that your mining equipment is uptime as whatever it is, so that you can earn the block reward. We can't really give you that kind of ISO standard outside of what we provide as a service as BlockDAG or BlockDAG Foundation at that. So it's the question is, kind of moot on a lot of this, if I can put it that way.
Jeremy, what you have shared are some really great stuff that you're working on. I feel like, we could benefit from more of these sessions that actually focus on the tech side, because, the community wants to see more of that. All we have gotten so far from the marketing standpoint is countdowns, cash grabs, price changes. Yeah. We don't want to see that. We're bored of that. That does nothing for us. Yeah. Like this week, in all of the AMAs, all of the meetings, we've been asking, can we see more of the tech? That's what we invested into. And, it's just a little disappointing this week that we got another countdown again with right next to it. I think it was implying that Keynote was getting dropped in 5 days. And, these are like, what you're telling me is why I invested. All of these other stuff, hate to say it on the meeting, but it's just garbage to me. I would really appreciate it if we could see more of these sessions with you and Maurice moving forward, because that's what I'm passionate about. And I really enjoy what you have communicated to us today. The other thing that I want to get into real quick, because I know we're short on time, is there have been numerous questions that were sent to me leading up to this meeting, and it's also something that I've been questioning for a little while, and I've now received a clear answer. Is Anthony, in a couple of your prior meetings, you had mentioned that you were focusing on the development piece, and your role was really limited to that in managing the dev team. Were you aware of any partnership with Cold Wallet, which is another pre-sale that's currently going on and have been going on for a while?
Yeah.
And, yep.
So it's a good question, and it's an interesting answer. So there is association with Cold Wallet, and Cold Wallet we are taking Cold Wallet over. So where we've talked about, and we've spent some time designing our wallet plans and looking at whether we build from scratch or whether we find a white label provider, because obviously build from scratch is great, but in the interest of time, we were looking at our alternatives to get something to market quicker. Cold Wallet is part of, if you want to call it, it's a group product, and it's going to be transferred to us. So we're going to have that as our wallet, and Cold Wallet will be no longer. There's still some finalization there, but we're going to be using all the source code, and we're going to use that to release our first wallet very quickly. It's a good wallet. There's a lot of functionality, a lot of effort's gone into it. I mean, Jeremy actually met the team. He was in India, 3 weeks ago, and he met the team there as well. So he knows he's working on it. So we are going to be taking that over as well. So so you're right in seeing the link, but it's very positive for us. We've basically got a wallet that we're going to take over as opposed to having to build something from scratch.
Thank you for clarifying that, because that was a lot of questions, and that actually makes me happy that we have our own wallet now attached to the project itself. The only thing I'll add is, it's just and it might be a little ranting, but I'm just very disappointed with the marketing piece, and after having these conversations at the table, that it still continues to happen. I know there's another entity in charge of that, but this is a message to them. We're not happy, and our communities are not happy with the marketing piece. It's kind of being marketed as if we're a meme coin, and we're worth way more than that. And I have, because of the marketing and the reckless situations that we're now in, I have investors from my community messaging me who are single moms, who are families, living paycheck to paycheck, hardworking individuals who have invested in this project, and they wanted to succeed, and they're so concerned and scared right now and stressed with all of this happening, with the bonus situations, with the reckless marketing. I'm speaking out to WPRO directly. This marketing needs to stop. It needs to go away. It's not benefiting us at all. We need to bring the stuff that Lisa is working on, the stuff that Jeremy is working on, the stuff that you're working on, the stuff that Maurice is working on. That's what we want to see on the front line, because that's what's building our trust up. So that's the message I'll leave here today, and I'm pretty sure I'll get hacked again, because my Reddit community was hacked last weekend. Reed was also hacked. My moderators were hacked. So but we're gonna keep speaking up for the interest of our communities. That's all I have to say.
Okay. I know there's probably more questions, but are you guys okay? I'm just going to do a quick walk around the office just to show you the miners in action. I've decided not to pre-record anything, so this is totally ad-libbed. Let's see if I can get this working. Okay, there we have it.
Anyway, you can make that screen the big one.
Nope.
Sorry about that.
No, there we go.
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yep. mute in case there's feedback when you come through.
Okay, I can't hear you, but I think you can still hear me. So just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay, cool. Okay, so these are our offices. We've only moved in, I think, 3 months ago. The green is all going to go. It happened to be a company in here called Old Mutual who has green as their color scheme. It's pretty horrid. So you'll see all the green. So this is the open plan area. Everyone's gone home. It's off. It's almost 6 o'clock Friday evening, so we don't expect people to be here. There's Jeremy. So this is the rest of the office. There's a bunch of offices, some more stuff around here. What I wanted to show you is our glorious miners. They might be small, but I think they're pretty sexy, if I can say that. So these are the X30s. They came out before we had them branded. So there's 6 of them here. There you'll see it. You can see the label there. So that's busy humming along. There's 6 here, and there's I think about 6 more in India being tested there as well. On this side, we've got the X100s. These arrived more recently. So this is one that's not plugged in. But you can see the nice branding on it. So these all humming along. They're actually the same size from a case perspective, but they effectively 3.3 times more powerful than the X30s. So those are the miners. Just going to go around here. So this is the miner dashboard. So this is one of the X30s. It just shows the average hash rate, fan speed, firmware versions, and then obviously a hash rate chart as well. So everyone kept saying, are these miners real? Is there anything there? This is, as you can see, we can go to multiple different miners. So this is tracking all the miners that are sitting the other side. Okay. I'm just going to go along here again. The X10s, there were questions around the X10s. That's, you can see Table Mountain, which is home to us and very dear to us. So what I wanted to show you here is all the boxes of all the packaging for the X10. And this is, I think there's in this room and in this room and one of the back rooms, there's, I think, probably 4,000 boxes. So we've still got a lot more to go. You can see this is the inside. They come as an outer and an inner. You can see here, sorry, I'm going to move a little bit quicker, but this is the base. You can see it's been changed. So it's got foam in it. So it's cut out foam. So the unit goes in there a lot more protected. So that's what it looks like with the unit in. Obviously the box goes on top. And then we've got another shipping unit. It's actually a little bit smaller than this. So this is just a sample, but it's a smaller unit, which that goes inside. So when this arrives, they should be well looked after. And actually that inner will also be wrapped in bubble wrap. So very well protected. That's what's going to ship. So these are all the boxes here with all of these in it. So again, just to show you that there is a lot of stuff happening. They all obviously need to be packed and all the rest, but it's ready for that. So that is pretty much all I wanted to show you. And then that's my office.
Okay, well, that was very nice. I appreciate seeing all that.
So there you have it, Corey. I couldn't hear anything during that. But
yeah. You might want to cut off the mic on the phone. There we go.
Yeah.
Outstanding. I do, while we were talking about various things, I'm simul streaming right now on the YouTube, and directly after this, we are going to showcase one of the builders who is building on the Build-a-thon. She's got 8 projects, and we're going to go through some of her projects, and that's going to be pretty interesting to see all the things that she's doing.
Awesome.
Great to hear. So we're sort of almost on the hour. You probably have other questions. We can open it up to the audience, but otherwise, if you've got other questions which you want to ask, then we've got a bit of time still.
Just going to say thank you to Jeremy, Anthony, Lisa, Maurice. Thank you guys for the work you're doing for us. We appreciate it, we value it, and it reaffirms why we invested in the project. So I hope our communities can still walk away from here with positive stuff today from seeing and whatever from what we discussed. So I'm happy. Thank you for sharing that.
Okay, I appreciate hearing that. I mean, ultimately, we're here for the community. I mean, that's why we're doing this. So yeah, always good to hear that. And I know there was a question around Maurice's continued involvement. He's still involved. The problem is so many of these sessions have been dominated by the marketing and the tokenomics that obviously we just haven't showcased a lot of other stuff. So good that Jeremy can join. And we want to get back to having Maurice delivering his technical sessions and all of the good stuff, because we've just been so distracted. So I think, yeah, once we're through this transition, there's going to be a step change in what happens.
Outstanding. Well, did you want to open it up to community questions?
I can do. In the Agencia, you'll see the chat disabled. Okay, I've enabled it. It's not
They're going now.
coming through. Yeah. Okay, so they're coming through now. I'm not understanding the first question necessarily.
There's a good one here about the miner certification. I think they're talking about the FCC and the CE certifications for the X10s. Maybe an update on that is what they're referring to.
So we've received the documentation. I need to sign it, and it goes back to them, and then I think we get certificates. But they all passed, only just. And actually, interesting enough, the biggest issue with that became the cable, because that transmits that's the point where a lot of the radio frequency waves leave. And so we had quite a bit of stuff that we needed to do to try and fix it. Anyway, we managed to get it passed. But one of the guys that helped us with that spent a week in the US in the testing lab making it happen. So it was unexpected how difficult it was just to get that one small thing done. There's questions on shipping. So what we will be doing is we need to make sure that people's shipping addresses are correct before we start sending anything, and make sure that people are able to and have updated their addresses as well, because it becomes problematic if we send it and it ends up either undelivered or sitting in customs. From the last batch, there were quite a few that ended up getting stuck in customs with no one claiming them. So that's problematic. So we'll make sure that we have an up-to-date contact address as well, because if the customs also need to be able to contact the person who's receiving it. So there's a bit of admin around that which we need to get onto.
I think a quite relevant question here is, when will the transition end? Do you have a projection date on when funds and marketing will be turned over to you? I know that, a big one was socials, especially the socials, because all the bots and the Telegram and all that stuff, it's driving people mad.
Yeah, so all of that will be handed over. I mean, there's quite a lot that we have to take on as well. So I mean, we're busy rushing to prepare for that. as quickly as we can, but probably practically before the end of the year. I mean, there's quite a bit that has to happen. So we're pushing to move on that as quickly as possible. I see someone here says, we want double ups. Unfortunately, there are no more double ups. There's one comment, and it came through with a few people, is that larger investors should get better treatment during the token reallocation. And in some ways, yes, because maybe they've put more in and they are more instrumental to the project. But then rethinking it, just because someone has less money to put in, it might be equally valuable to them. So I don't think it's fair to differentiate based on the amount of money someone has to invest. I think it should always be percentage of investment, or ROI, which is always a percentage. So that keeps it fair. But I wouldn't want to change it just because someone put in $100 as opposed to 1,000, because they get a worse off deal.
I would like to add with that, that some people's money's been locked up for a long time, and I think that that's definitely a relevant consideration. Somebody that puts $100 in today is, going to be seeing a possible return on money way sooner than somebody who puts $100 in March of 24.
Yeah. I mean, I'd hope that the early investors who've had it locked up, I mean, they certainly, the very early ones got a far better price. So they were rewarded for that. Again, it's the middle investors that just really sort of got left behind with a lot of this.
And Anthony, I can appreciate what you're saying is maybe all investors should be treated equally. I mean, my vision was a little bit different than that, but at least people that put in the same amount of money, one shouldn't have far more bonus tokens than the other. So for equal amount of investment through the K thing that I proposed, the person, more tokens for the same investment would get drastically. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I am following that. The tricky part is for someone who invested with no expectation of bonuses versus someone who invested expecting 2,000%. We also have to try and factor that in, that maybe that second person would never have invested, but now they're being treated equally. So I think there's a middle ground between the two where everyone should, in fairness, get the same return on investment, but people did go in based on different promises. There's no right solution here. We're going to have to pick something that is as fair as possible to as many as possible people.
There's a really relevant question that I see on here. It's talking about lost tokens, but essentially what it boils back to is the support. Have you started shopping for a different support organization, or because I know that we've talked about a couple of times that support is not doing the things. You're on mute, Anthony.
Sorry. So we're busy gearing up for that as well. There's 3 components to support. There's the people who run the support desk, as in a fresh desk, and they manage that as best they can. There's the back end where issues then actually need to be resolved, as in we've identified that someone didn't get their bonuses. It needs to go to the back end where someone with authority can then manipulate the database to fix it. And then there's a third one, which is now payments, who handle some of the payments where you're using the alternative currencies as opposed to the main 3. And that goes through now nodes, and sometimes the support gets stuck with them. So there's 3 elements we need to take over and fix. So it's going to take a while because they're all sort of sitting in different places, but we are planning that as we speak.
Thank
you. There's again a question on why do we need to hit 600 million? So the 600 million has been dropped finally forever. We're never going to talk about it again. So no need to speak about it. It's history.
I guess another big one is going to be the $87 million or $86 million investor. Is there any update on that? That's definitely a relevant one.
It's progressing very well. So I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to preempt it, but I think there's a fairly high likelihood that he will be investing, most likely. So obviously that is something we have to factor into the whole bonus calculation as well. That does add a whole spin onto it, because obviously that's a huge chunk of additional bonuses we need to work out. And it might be at that point we have to look at utilizing some of the minor bonuses. But I didn't want to go down that whole level of calculation if it's not necessary. So we're just trying to get sort of finality on that.
One question that just came in my chat, it might be more suited for you, Jeremy. I think someone pointed out the scalability piece on the roadmap actually declined. I think it went from, I think it was 90 or 80 something percent to 79%. So there were some questions on that. What was driving the decline on the roadmap?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question about scalability.
Yeah, there was a, on the roadmap itself, it might be a question to get back on, but on the roadmap itself, there's a column for scalability. It was previously, I think it was at 90%, and in the most recent update on the roadmap, 11.3, it went down to 79% or something along that. So there were some questions on that.
I think, Jeremy, that was one of the items, was a work piece where we were working on scalability.
Okay.
And
yeah,
percentages going down, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer the question other than that from a scalability perspective, what we're talking about here is throughput. And in previous answers I've given, the throughput that we're aiming for is 2,000 transactions per second at launch, which is the current, if you want to say, like, target as far as scalability is concerned. Any further scalability beyond that point is subject to research and development, and there's a lot of variables involved in that. So I don't want to make claims of where we could go. The target is 2,000 transactions per second, and then post-launch, the goal is to continue doing research and development. We've got quite a lot of preemptive work that's been done on things we want to try with the team, and if any of those things pan out and show promise, they will be incorporated into the architecture of the chain as we move forward to improve scalability. Some of those ideas are speculative at this point, so I don't even want to talk about them.
I think, Mohammed, what happens there is that's each of those items is an epic, and it links directly to Jira. So if we put additional tickets into that, which aren't complete, then suddenly the completion drops off. So it's it looks odd, but it does happen. Just to mention, because there were one or two questions here as well, we've just gone in literally a couple of hours ago, we went through all the items in there. Most of them link directly to Jira, so they update automatically, but there's some that don't for a number of reasons. So we've also made sure that everything's updated as well, so that public roadmap should be updated now.
So I saw a question here on, is there any updates on the audits and how much of the money is actually left that will be transferred into the new entity?
By the way, I just interject real quick. I'm receiving messages. No one can hear us. I'm not sure on whose end it is, but getting a lot of messages on that. Not sure.
Hear any of us?
I can hear everyone fine on my side.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any
I'm not
errors.
sure. There's nothing I can do. Well, let's just carry on. They are saying we can hear you, so it's maybe some people. Michael, just on that question that you picked up, no update. We're waiting for numbers on that, so I can't give you anything there.
I know you in the previous one said internal audit, but kind of balked at a third-party audit. Where do you stand on that now?
We're looking at what we can achieve practically. And obviously, the more we can achieve, the better. But it's a negotiation. It's also being pragmatic about moving forward. So we might not get everything we want in terms of audits and third-party audits and all the rest. But from my side, I'm gonna do what I can.
So then I'll get to the other question I saw is how do you feel? How confident are you in a successful launch? I myself also want to know this because I'm considering investing more at this point. If you truly take over, and I believe that you do have what's best in mind, and we can trust you. So, how sure are you that this will all be able to be worked out? A new entity can be formed, and we will have a successful launch.
So I think, assuming the transition happens as planned, and at this stage, every indication is that that's happening. Assuming that the financial side is sufficient, then there's no reason we can't launch. Obviously, for launch, we need technical readiness, we need financial ability to launch, we need listing or centralized exchanges in place, and we need the miners delivered and implemented. And those are the key things. Obviously, we want a good community, we want an ecosystem and all the rest. But the sort of first four items at this stage, every indication is yes, we'll have them. There's no reason why we can't launch. If we were technically not ready, it would push us out. But that doesn't mean we don't launch. It means we delay it by whatever that might be. But at this stage, by end of Q1, that's our launch goal.
And has this affected any of the agreements you already had with? I'm losing the technical term, but with help me out here, guys.
The ASIC miners, are they on time, for example, from when we talked about it on the 24th?
They're still on time, but things are getting tighter in terms of the schedule I gave you. The portion still needs to be paid to complete the order for the X30s. So the X100s have been ordered. That's all on the way. So that's good. It's just the X30s the order needs to be completed. But right now, I'm working with the mining suppliers, and everything's okay. So we're within the window still.
My question was more with the listings. You had secured, I think, 20 different, and I'm losing the technical word, but
exchanges.
Exchanges. Thank you. Has this affected any of those arrangements?
So the 5 that we've signed up with so far are obviously smaller exchanges, so I don't think it's material. We'll have to re-sign because obviously the legal entity that's going to be listing is going to be different, so we'll have to re-sign with them. I don't see any particular issue. Their rules aren't particularly stringent anyway. It's the other exchanges that we're having conversations with. This whole process puts a bit of a damper on those conversations because it obviously doesn't look good if we go to them and then we change the entity, etc. So we're sort of going slow on that. We have open discussions with them. We'll just slow down on the actual getting to the nuts and bolts of signing contracts and the actual application. 3 months for most of them is absolutely fine anyway. So I don't think it impacts us. We'll obviously have to push a lot harder come January, but I think for now we're okay on that. The relationships with most of them have been set up. We've got open conversations with them. So I think that's already in place. So it's just a matter of sort of going a bit slow on it until we've got certainty around how we contract with them.
Anthony, I know when it was communicated that I believe there were like 3,000 wallets within our community. Do you have a ballpark estimate of where we're at currently in terms of how many investors or wallets?
We have, on last count, I think there was 170 or 160, 170 individual wallets. However many investors are behind those, I'm not sure.
Oh, a pretty impressive number, though.
Yeah, that is. I mean, as much as we're going through all this challenge, I mean, we're a strong project. We've got good tech. We've got a good team behind it. We've raised a lot, which gives us a lot of momentum. So yeah, we're going to come out of this as a strong project, and yeah, I think we just need to be positive around that. This is a big bump in the road, but we'll get past, and we're going to launch this thing well.
All behind you. So
yeah. Someone asked if Robert Radek is around. He is. He's around, and he'll be on another session once we've got space for everyone to start showcasing what they're up to. Someone keeps asking about gateway winners. I hate to say it, but I mean, that's an individual specific question you've got, so and I can't answer it now. They should have been paid. If you haven't been paid, put something into support. I know that can be like just flushing your request down the toilet. Please put it in anyway. I mean, as we take over, we'll be working through the backlog and we'll get to them. So they haven't gone missing. They're just not necessarily being dealt with quickly enough or efficiently enough.
They are spamming that question, aren't they?
Yeah.
Anything else you guys are seeing through here? I mean, there's lots of questions.
It's definitely hard to
we're not. Yeah, we're not talking to Ledger, but we have discussed that we probably need to pick and set up a relationship with one of the hardware providers, Ledger being probably the biggest.
I have a pretty good question that has come through. So when we take and since we're looking at everything and talking about going into a new legal entity of sorts, I know that you're going to be doing a lot of in-depth research into all the wallets, the various holdings, the vesting schedules, all that kind of stuff. Are you going to be looking, because a lot of people are really worried about a rug pull type of situation, you know, that there's some people that are early investors that have huge wallets and that it's all going to be available on launch, and the zero vesting promotions that have been put out, you know, ever since WPro did that and was pushing all that stuff, it really raised those flags within the community. The community was solid when they were, you know, 40, 20, 20, 20 with bonus coins being a year out. Are you going to take a look at all the vesting and ensure that, anyway, I think you know what I mean.
Yeah. So we have a full breakdown of all the wallets and their holdings, and also obviously the different promos they've used. So that's sitting in Excel. So I mean, I've been through that. There's nothing that stands out as they're all valid purchases of tokens. So I think the point being that any team members, there are no team members holding massive, large allocations of non-team tokens. And we would see that because we would see a large allocation of tokens with very, very low or $0 spend. So there are none of those. The ones that stand out would be your double ups where there's a low spend but a high bonus allocation. But that's a different ballpark anyway. So short answer is there's nothing that stands out as just a holding with no spend. The team tokens are for that, and those will be used accordingly and obviously locked up accordingly as well. So I don't see any issue with any large investors selling out that didn't spend money up front.
And TapMiner, what's the ETA on getting that shut down? Any ideas?
I'm hoping during the course of next week. We need to shut it down, obviously do the full final recons of it. I mean, we know how we're going to deal with the tap points, but obviously we need a final snapshot, deal with them. I also want to make sure that the dashboard is obviously simplified now that a lot of the bonus stuff's being removed, but also needs to reflect what a person holds from a tap point perspective, as in well, tap BDAG, so converted from tap points to tap BDAG, so what people hold after that conversion, what people hold as X1 as well, as a separate bucket, because obviously there's criteria before those then convert into BDAG as well. So I want the dashboard to show that all, so people know exactly where they are, plus the allocation to core and bonus as well. Just again, giving full visibility.
While we're talking about that stuff, I want to bring something else up. It was brought up in the Facebook community, and it's been brought up many times before. There are a bunch of layer 2 tokens that are named BDAG on various exchanges or Ethereum or Solana. I just want to say our blockchain is not released yet. We have not had the token generation event. There is no official BDAG token, and any of those that you may see out there are false. They are not related to BlockDAG. And can you confirm that, Anthony? Because that is definitely something that we want to steer people away from.
Absolutely. They're all non-official BDAGs. Again, in the crypto space, anyone can launch a layer 2 token and call it pretty much what they like. It's not us. Don't buy them. You're going to be scammed if you haven't already. So stay away from them. And there was the Medium article that went out, which tried to reconcile where all the money moved, et cetera, et cetera. And I think the biggest flaw in that article was taking those as actual BDAG tokens, which they're not. So any inference that has any sort of relevance to us and the movement of money is obviously completely wrong as well.
You pretty much, when you see somebody talking about that there's been a BDAG token and you can almost throw out the whole article as they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Jeremy, so does Awakening testnet support smart contracts already? Is that function working?
So even Primordial was fully EVM compatible, and Awakening has exactly the same. So you can launch whatever you want as long as it's EVM compliant, and if you can run it on Ethereum, you can run it on our network.
And so if someone was to create a D app or something to that effect, they could interface with the network right now and be able to actually see everything in action.
100%.
That's Jeremy, you can't show the I'm springing it on you, but the visualizer, you can't show whatever's running at the moment.
I don't have it in front of me, no.
Okay.
Ben would be the guy to speak to about that. I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah.
But just to, because there's a lot of community members, yourselves included, there's nothing you cannot do on our network on Awakening that you can't do on Ethereum. Okay. We are slightly different in that we haven't moved to proof of stake network like Ethereum did, but we are proof of work, EVM compliant, high performant network. You can go play with it. Just remember, it is a test net. So, if something's not working the way it should, let our guys know. That's part of the reason we have a test net, so that when you guys come build on our network, when you're experimenting, when you're trying to create a dApp, if you see something that doesn't feel right, let us know. There shouldn't be much of that. We have experienced a little bit of an issue with the RPC, the public RPC. Sometimes it's not responsive, and we're working on fixing that problem. But apart from that, the blockchain itself, if you want to develop a dApp, my advice to you, run your own blockchain node, so you can use your local RPC endpoint and build your dApp on top of a node. Don't use the public RPC if you're going to run a dApp. If you're going to build a dApp, sorry. So yes, you're welcome. Anything you want to build it on our network, test it, let us know if there's problems, but there shouldn't be many. In fact, as far as we know, there should be none at this point.
Maybe to mention, I mean, we couldn't have hackathons if we didn't have EVM compatibility. And there's nothing to build. You can't build anything on top of, for instance, a Casper, which doesn't have smart contracts. So yeah,
exactly.
it's definitely
so yes. the question is answered as yes, 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 yes. 100% EVM compliant. Build your dApps, play with the network, tell us if there's something wrong, we'll fix it. Our team is quite responsive. We've got quite a lot of things that we're dealing with at the moment. We've implemented the 4337 contract stack on. So if you want to do account abstraction stuff with your dApps, you can do that currently through an entry point contract on Awakening. And we're about to start working on a project around real world assets. That's the 3643 standard. And we'll let you guys know if that might or might not be live by mainnet launch, but we are pushing to try and get that so that it can be deployed along with the account abstraction stuff by mainnet launch.
That's
there's
huge.
a couple
That's
other
the future.
Yeah, there's a couple other things we're looking into, but we have to be pragmatic about how and what we introduce at this point, because we're very close to mainnet. So we want to give you as much as we can in the timeframes that we have available to us.
What about wattage? Have you done actual wattage draws on the X30s and X100s?
I know I
No.
promised last time to do that, and that's on me. So, Jeremy, I'm going to pass the ball to you. Can we get an amp meter in?
I'll bring some stuff in to the office and get the guys to do some tests on that for you.
People are trying to set up their electrical systems. They just want to make sure that they're doing it properly.
No.
Yeah.
We'll get you some actual figures on that. I'll make sure I bring the equipment and give it to the guys to do those tests.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have obviously the stated wattage draws, but let's see what it actually does.
We'll do some tests and see exactly what's going through the wire and let you guys know.
Yeah. There was a question on Mika. So the intention is, because we're going to a new structure, the good news is that it gives us the opportunity to make sure it's super clean. So some of the red flags that maybe would have been picked up when we're speaking to exchanges right now, because of obviously a 2-year pre-sale history, we're hoping to make sure that the way we do it is cleans up a lot of that. So MiCA compliant, everything transparent, all those good things. So we want to be sort of squeaky clean in the new structure. Okay. I mean, there's lots more questions. If there's anything else from you guys, any last questions? Otherwise, we can probably call it a day.
Yeah, I think, we covered quite a bit.
This has been a great AMA. Thank you. Learned a lot of new stuff here today.
Okay, great. Well, thanks everyone. Yeah, appreciate you guys all being on here to field the questions, being part of the community. Thanks, Michael, Mohammed, and Reed. And also, Jeremy, good to have you on here as well. It's certainly, I think we need to showcase obviously more around the tech and what we're building. So hopefully we do more of that and less of me speaking, which will make me very happy. So from my side, just a big thank you to the community and everyone listening in. Appreciate having you here. And thanks to the guys on the call.
And I'll be happy to just bow out altogether and continue trying to do what I was doing. And you can put all the tech guys on here. Y'all don't need me. But we are going to have that builder showcase right after this. It's on the live stream, so check out the BlockDAG Investors YouTube channel. We'll have one of our builders on talking about our projects.
Awesome.
Very good.
Great. Cool.
All right,
thanks everyone.
Appreciate everyone's time.
Bye-bye.
So, yeah.
Okay, let me figure out how to do all this.